I'm going to show you how to make a pretty cool soundscape with just modifying a few things out of a Max tutorial. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Help, and then we're going to open up the References menu. And in the References menu, we want to click on Home and go to the MSP tutorials and scroll down to where it says Additive and Modulation Synthesis, and click on the FM synthesis patch or tutorial. And then you can read about this, but we are going to open the tutorial patch. All right, so we're going to modify this patch, but before we do that, let's just take a quick look inside of this patch and see what's happening. So I can see that we have a button here that would play a note if your audio is on and your gain is turned up. And if we enter a carrier frequency, we can hear it now. So here are the parameters that we can play around with. We have our carrier frequency, and the other parameter is our harmonicity. The other thing that we can change is the duration of our note and the modulation index function and our amplitude function or envelope. Here we see some presets. So let's try a bunch of these sounds. You can see that this sound was over the span of 5 seconds, so both of these functions or envelopes will play based off of being 5 seconds long. In the next presets, they're only 400 milliseconds. Alright, so we can see that we can get a lot of sounds with an FM synthesizer. So if I want to create a pretty soundscape, I probably want to stay within a certain scale or collection of notes. My favorite tool to use to stay within a scale is under Help, and then under Examples, and then under Max Tricks, under Notes and Pitch, Scalar. So Scalar is such a fun patch, and we can just take out the things that we need from it and copy paste it into our FM synthesis patch. So I'm going to unlock this, and I can see here that I don't need this. I don't need the staff notation for this, and I also don't need this triangle oscillator because I'm trying to use the FM synthesizer that we have. I am going to copy paste everything else because I want to be able to choose my scale that I want, and I also want to be able to choose the root notes. And we really don't need to change anything else. So I'll just copy this chunk of this patch, and then I can just close it. I don't need it anymore. We're gonna unlock our FM synthesis patch and paste that chunk of scalar here. So we can see that we already have our MIDI to frequency object, and we need to send this to our carrier frequency. So I'll just send the output of the MTOF to our carrier frequency. So you might think we're good now, but if I close this patch and turn on the toggle, I can't hear anything even though I can see the frequencies are changing. Well, that's because in this patch, we need to trigger our amplitude envelope and our modulation index envelope, which really changes the brightness of our sound as well. And that's why this button is connected to both of these. So we can just connect the output of our metronome into this button because every single time that this note changes, we want to be able to hear it. So now perfect. I mean, I want to be able to change my scale. Let's go to an Ionian, which is the major scale. Now, while this is playing, I can go ahead and mess with my amplitude envelope or the brightness envelope and also the harmonicity number. If you have integers, it's going to sound harmonic. If you have float numbers, so decimals, it's going to sound inharmonic. can hear how wobbly it sounds. Alright, so cool. We're getting a lot of cool pitches, but the rhythm is not very fun. So I would like to modify this metronome object a little bit further. First of all, I'm going to delete the argument of this metronome because I know that I will be changing it. What I want to happen is that I want to send new metronome values every few seconds. Let's say every 4 seconds. So I actually need another metronome object that sends out a bang every 4 seconds if I want that value to change. And we can give it a toggle as well. But what numbers do I want this value to change to? Well, I know that I want my metronome to maybe be as fast as every 200 or 150 milliseconds, and I don't want it to be longer or slower than maybe 3 seconds. So what I can do is create a random object and give it the argument of 3000 or 3 seconds. But then I want to offset it by 100 because I don't want my metronome to give me a value that is equal to 0 or 10, because 0 milliseconds or 10 milliseconds, those are really short numbers and it's not gonna sound good. So I would want to offset it by either 100 or 200 milliseconds, so it starts from that instead of starting from 0. And I'm going to make this toggle bigger because I know that this is going to be my main toggle. I also want to see what numbers are coming out of this, so I'll just add an integer box here, connect that in there, and then feed it into the right input of metronome, which is its argument. Alright, so now if I turn on both of these toggles, every 4 seconds, random is going to output a number between 99, because remember, random starts from 0, so maybe I want to change this to 101. So, still everything is pretty straight and repetitive, but at least the time intervals that we're getting these notes from will change. So I'm also just gonna mess around a little bit with my brightness and my amplitude envelope. Now there's one more thing I can do to make this more interesting, and that has to do with the duration of each note that we have. Right now on this preset that I am, the note duration is set to 400 milliseconds, but I think I want my note duration to be the same as the interval that the notes are being played. So for example, if I'm playing a note every 500 milliseconds, I want my duration to be also 500. This is just a preference that I think would sound good. So for that, I can just give the output of this random 3000 plus 101 to the duration box. And this way, these numbers will be in sync now. So yeah, I think that creates a little bit more interest. And really the last step here is to add a cool delay to kind of make it into that soundscapey vibe that we're going for. So I'm gonna unlock my patch and I'm just gonna load one of the Max for Live devices that comes with Max 8. So I'm just gonna type delay and I'm gonna load in the tapped delay. Now there might be questions on where to insert this device. Well, I still want to have some gain control, so I'm going to delete the last step that goes into the gain, which is this multiplication tilde object, and feed it into both channels of this device. You can see we have 2 channels, and the output of those device into the input of gain. Alright, now you can see my patch looks pretty messy. I'm actually going to add the stuff that I actually need into presentation mode. I know that I want this tap delay device in my presentation. So I'm going to right click on it and click on add to presentation. I want my gain device. I don't really need my frequency because that's going to change randomly, but I do want my harmonicity value and I want to be able to change that manually. So I'm also adding that to the presentation. I also want these two functions. Last but not least, we can leave this main toggle on, but this is the toggle that will actually activate playing the notes. So I'm adding this one to my presentation so I can turn my synth on and off essentially. I will also add my scale drop down menu, and I think that's all I need for now. So let's look at our presentation mode. Cool, I'm just gonna make these look a little bit better. And, I'm just gonna go ahead and change my locked patcher color to something else. And cool. Now we have this presentation mode, and I'm just gonna play around with the device, with my scale, with my harmonicity value if I want it to sound a little bit more dissonant and inharmonic. And remember, the left one is our brightness envelope and the right one is our amplitude envelope. So here I go, just kind of experimenting with everything. Aeolian is the minor. Shift click to delete any of the points. At any time you can come out of presentation mode and see what's happening here. My note area.